Hello everyone and welcome back to the second of our F124 deep dive videos. Yes, this is the big one. This is the one I'm sure that most of you are interested in. It's time to talk about all the new things coming to career mode. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live on Monday, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We've ran through quite a few of the changes to how the cars are going to handle, how setups are going to be affected inside F124, and just the overall driving experience. I'm very excited for all those implemented changes. I think they are going to make the game a lot more interesting and a lot more difficult for a lot of people as well, so that should certainly be good. But yeah, today we move into kind of the most important thing in the game, obviously something that I will be doing a lot of when F124 releases. Get yourself subscribed. That of course being career mode. Now, obviously the last couple of years there hasn't really been much added to career mode. Weirdly, with EA and Codemasters, that's often quite a good thing, because it means that they're actually spending more time developing career mode, so it's often that they're trying to bring big changes to the game and how sort of career mode works. Of course, probably one of the biggest we ever saw was obviously F1 2015 had no career mode, and then F1 2016 kind of was the baseline that we've been able to build from ever since then, with each year's new edition of the game. And F1 24, we have got some massive changes. First of all, one of the ones that I'm not so sure will be particularly popular is actually the ability to race as an IRL F1 driver throughout the course of a season. So this was kind of loosely tested inside F1 23, where you could go back and try and emulate results. I believe that was in F1 World. But yeah, now inside F1 24, you can literally go through, change how a driver's career looks. You know, say for example, you know, there's all these talks at the moment that Max Verstappen could go to Mercedes. What happens if at the start of 2024 he left Red Bull with his 19-win season and tried to make Mercedes better, perhaps even being teammate to Lewis Hamilton as well? So that's a cool feature that I think some of you are going to be able to enjoy. You know, I'm hoping, of course, once again, you're going to be able to do different scenarios with it. You know, obviously too far back in time now, but say for example trying to make Lewis Hamilton an 8-time world champion in Abu Dhabi 2021 or that kind of thing. But it's going to allow you to obviously completely change a driver's career trajectory as well, which is going to be very, very cool. Also, it looks like we're getting more IRL radio messages in the game. So for example, obviously for the last few years, you'll know obviously you've been able to pre-select your own like winning message and things like that. Inside F1 24, that's going to be more dynamic, so not only now are you obviously going to be able to have a radio message, but all the other drivers have got their own, and it's not just for winning. So for example, I'm sure we're all going to hear Max Verstappen say yes boys, simply lovely, pretty much non-stop inside the game. But say for example, Valtteri Bottas of course had a mechanical failure in Shanghai last weekend. Now when he has that mechanical failure in the game, it's going to come up with a team radio message obviously saying, or obviously, you know, a radio message from Bottas saying that he's had that mechanical failure, and maybe even sort of goes into detail as to what went wrong with that car as well. We don't quite know about that. And also, you know, when AI make moves and things like that, I believe we're also going to be seeing, so it just kind of provides, you know, a bit more of an experience as to what's going on for every other driver around the grid. Personally, I really like that idea. I think it's going to be really, really cool, especially obviously as I live commentate races. You know, it might be that I'm talking about something and suddenly a driver comes in with something completely different as well, which I think is certainly a really, really exciting feature. But moving kind of more into the way career mode is going to work, Cody's EA, they have really, really spent a lot of time on trying to make the game have better longevity. Of course, most of us have kind of seen, if you dive into a My Team career mode, you can pretty much be world champion inside 2 or 3 seasons, and then after that, unless you deliberately kind of mess up when the rule changes happen, it's quite difficult to really end up, you know, kind of off the top of the standings again. Obviously, the AI, they don't tend to move around too much either. Obviously, once the cars are fully upgraded, not really a lot changes in terms of performance. So they kind of took a step back and saw, how can we try and give the game more longevity in the long term? So possibly one of the biggest things that I'm excited for is that when, say for example, your engineer comes in and tells you the rule changes are changing next season, that is going to completely affect how the car is going to work, and it actually is likely, unless you've taken a lot of time to kind of prepare for that, is now going to take you more time to catch back up. So hopefully it's going to allow some of, the AI teams as well to, become a lot quicker. Say, for example, out of nowhere, there's a huge rule change for Season 2, and McLaren are the fastest car on the grid, or Ferrari are the fastest car on the grid, and it might take Red Bull 2 or 3 seasons to catch back up with that performance. And the other one to add to that is that, obviously in the last few games, you're going to ask quite early on, who is your rival in the sport? That is going to be slightly different inside F124, because now you're going to be able to pick longer term rivals inside the game, and it ties in to a new ability to be able to go talk to other teams whilst you're still under contract with your current team. So it might well be, say for example, you've told the press, Fernando Alonso is my big rival, and then suddenly there's rumours that Fernando Alonso wants to go to Red Bull. It might well be that you and Fernando now, say for example, you're at McLaren, he's at Aston Martin, and you're both fighting for this Red Bull seat against each other because the team is comparing you, of course, to their other available options. Of course, always the goal first and foremost is to beat your teammate, but it might well be that, say for example, you come in, I know there's no rookies for F1 2024 sadly, but it might be that you come in and say, my rival is Oscar Piastri, and say 2 or 3 seasons down the line, you might be having a championship fight with Oscar Piastri, and the game will remember that, and of course we'll talk about how, you two have been rivals for a certain amount of time, and obviously how, how this affects things going further in career mode. It might well be, for example, that Oscar Piastri goes to Ferrari, and because you're bitter rivals, he won't let you join that team. Ferrari goes, nope, we've got Oscar. It's written in his contract that you aren't going to be racing alongside him. A bit like Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost back at Williams in the early 90s, if you remember then. So it's going to provide career mode to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting as well. Because, of course, it might well be that Oscar Piastri's gone to that Ferrari team, and you are not able to go there, and they have got the quickest car, like Red Bull have got IRL at the moment. It might mean that it takes you another season or 2 before you can try and become Formula 1 World Champion as well. And just all those things are hopefully going to mean, rather than it kind of being like a 3-season cycle, it might take 4, it might take 6, it might take all 10 for all you know. I'm going to be on episode like 270 of career mode by the time F125 releases. But I think it's just so cool. I think, they've kind of understood now that career mode for too many years has kind of followed the same timeline, unless you intentionally, say for example, you deliberately botch your own regulations or things like that with the changes coming to the game. And of course, adding more longevity to it. You guys will have seen with me, obviously we did, I think it was 4 seasons of F1 My Team, and then we did a complete reset. I started over, and it did work out differently, to be fair. Obviously we've got the entire series finale going out live tomorrow as well, so I'll make sure I won't leave any spoilers as to what ends up going on with that final episode. I will warn you now, it is an absolute banger. But also, you're going to find as well that there is going to be perks to unlock. So I believe this is kind of why F1 World was a thing inside F1 23, was they obviously kind of wanted to test how some of these things worked inside the game. But it also looks like you are going to be able to pick up some small perks to potentially help boost your car. Now, it's not going to be like F1 World where, you're going to have to grind out for 30 hours to try and unlock some parts, and you're not going to have to buy this or that if you want to have a competitive car in career mode. But it is certainly going to be interesting to sort of see how that affects the game. Again, they were kind of a little bit quiet with this, but I think it is certainly going to be interesting to, once obviously the game comes out, see if there's kind of a meta that evolves, and of course obviously we'll be covering that as well, because you guys know I'm going to be playing a lot of F1 24 career mode as well. But yeah, like I said, a lot of the emphasis this year is also on driver career mode. I did personally ask, and my team is going to be staying in the game. But I feel like driver career mode is where a lot of the interest is going to be this year. It's not potentially going to be about sort of trying to build your own team and things like that. although I do believe a lot of these things will still be implemented. A lot of it now is going to be having those rivalries with other teams up and down the order. You know, are you going to be competitive against, you know, the big dogs, you know, in the other teams, things like that? Are you going to be competitive against your teammate? It might well be that, say, you're at McLaren alongside Oscar Piastri, and, you know, Red Bull are sniffing around, they need a new driver to replace Sergio Perez, and suddenly it ends up being a dogfight between you two in the same car, trying to fight for a better seat at the Formula 1 table as well. But all of these things I think are really, really good changes, and hopefully, of course, a bit like what we said with the new car changes as well, if implemented correctly, I think EA and F1 are onto an absolute banger as well, and I'm really, really excited for it. Just like I mentioned in that first video, though, if you have got any questions about any of this as well, I will try to answer what I can as well in the very near future. We have got one more of these updates coming out, I think, in just under 2 weeks' time, that is going to be talking about all the other things that have changed inside F1 24. But once again, a massive thank you to EA, obviously, for providing me with early access to this information as well, and of course their continued support on the channel. F1 24, I am so excited to be really diving into this. I do think it is going to be a game changer for a lot of people, and it's hopefully going to make career mode more intuitive as well, not only for you guys watching, but also obviously doing your own career modes as well. But thank you all so much for watching. Please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well if you are new around here, and we'll be back very soon with more F1 24 content.